Hello everyone and welcome to this brand new playthrough series in which we'll be exploring Galileo's Planets pack. We're playing in career mode, but it won't be exactly the same as SSTO space program in GPP, because what will be different this time is that I won't be running you through everything that you normally do in career mode, but instead of we'll try to focus on a specific goal for each episode, and I would like to explore a new celestial body every single video, so as you can see, this series will be probably rather short, and well, since we've just started, the goal for today is just to get into orbit. But also what will be slightly different is that the number of mods that we'll have installed will be quite minimal. Actually, there will be only a couple of mods that add new parts, and those are science-related mods only, so DMagic, Orbital Science, and ScanSat. So now we can take a look at all the amazing planets that we have in GPP. So let's go to the map view, the tracking station, and see what new bodies that we have to explore. And of course we have Gael here with its 2 moons, and all of the other planets are missing except for the closest one, which is called Neven, I think. Yeah, so this is interesting, and the reason for it is that because we have a mod installed research bodies, which basically what it does is makes you first track unknown celestial bodies via the orbital telescopes that it introduces, and once the body is tracked and it's sort of discovered, then you can go there and kind of, you know, have an encounter with it. Unless you have like a blind encounter with a body, then it will be discovered immediately, but good luck with that, honestly. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to share for this playthrough is that we will be basically doing stuff as it is. So if we fail at something, or if I fail at you know, launching something specific, then you know, we will try to live with that. I won't be keeping this perfect via quick saves and you know, a lot of editing. I mean, obviously some initial testing has to be done because we don't want our vessels exploding on the launch pad for no reason. But if anything goes wrong during the course of our mission or something like that, or if for some reason, I mean, we crash land anywhere, or you know, our rocket will run out of fuel for because I just miscalculated something, well, then we'll have to send a rescue mission. I think this is how it's going to be. And yeah, since we've just started, the initial couple of launches are always a little bit boring because there's really nothing to do. So I won't be running you through all of that, we'll just quickly skip for that. And yeah, the pattern that I took was just really simple. So basically I did a couple of part testing contract to get some money, you know, some simple launches to get, you know, the initial science from the launch pad and from you know, the surrounding area. So obviously we have some extra science experiments introduced by DMagic Orbital Science mod, and the initial trend that I have usually during those first hours of gameplay is that I always try to unlock the nodes that are responsible or actually contain extra science experiments, because then every single launch that you do from that point onwards will give you even more science, so you will be able to progress quickly through the science tree. And even if that doesn't technically give you better rocket parts, sometimes, and I would say most of the times, you don't really need those parts right away. So it's kind of like you should fight the urge of having better engines and better tanks in favor of having better science equipment, because once you have those, then the single launch that you would normally send will give you enough science to unlock much more than you would if you just sent, you know, a big rocket with almost no experiments on it. So yeah, so that's basically what I did. I just followed that trend and tried to, you know, do a couple of launches and unlock as much science equipment as I could. And then the next thing that I did, once we got to the point where we had wheels, I made a very small rover that we used to, you know, get all of the science data from and around KSC. And just by pure accident, I accidentally made it look like Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's just an awesome movie that I love. You know, this robot, for whatever reason, it looks pretty much like Marvin. It's also sad, and I'm also sure that he didn't enjoy collecting all that science. But you know, well, it worked. So yeah, so once this was done, we are at the point where we wanted to launch our first, hopefully, suborbital rocket. So obviously to do that we need to unlock a couple of new technologies, some better fins, some better engines, and yeah, this is almost done right now. So as you can see, I also play with the part purchase cost, so we cannot basically go around spending parts because we don't have enough money to do that. But yeah, this seems to be okay now, so let's jump right into the vehicle assembly building and start building our rocket. And I think that we'll try to send Jebediah this time into suborbital trajectory. So for that we need to unlock this a little bit better fuel tank, liquid fuel tank. And I think 6 of those will be sufficient. Then we'll get the swivel engine, the one that does not have, no, it's not swivel, it's Reliant, right? Reliant, the one that does not have the gimbal control, but instead packs quite a lot of punch, a bit bigger than the swivel does. So yeah, it looks okay, I think. So we'll just add a little bit of science equipment to this, and I think we'll be ready to go. I'm just looking that we also have a contract here that requires us to do some other things, but we'll do that later, I suppose. So right now what we are doing is also trying to figure out if we can recover that stage entirely, because we don't want to lose Jebediah. So Jebediah is needed. So yeah, arranging those chutes here so they will deploy in the correct order, and then we'll add some fins and some science equipment maybe. And once this is done, I think that will be ready to launch. So we'll add some mystery goo and, you know, some science junior and things like that, and you know, obviously the DMagic magnetometer as well, parameters, everything that we can basically we'll add. And once this is done, I think we can launch. We can launch our rocket, and hopefully everything will be okay. I'm not entirely sure, but let's hope so. Let's hope so. I've also changed those fins to the ones that can actually pivot slightly, because you know, we don't want Jebediah to plummet down into the earth. And actually what happens most of the time is when you launch this kind of rockets is they turn into missiles really quickly, and there's no way you can slow them down, especially if you're re-entering on a very steep trajectory. So here with placing those fins a little bit upper, I suppose that I hope at least that we'll be able to generate a lot of kind of like have the center of lift closer to the center of mass once the rocket is empty, and this way we will be able to slow it down by just deploying the fins. And yeah, that was my hope, but let's see how it works. We're breaking the 26 kilometer barrier here, which is really cool. We're still accelerating. So basically the goal that not the goal, but the method that I usually use is that when you want to go just outside of the atmosphere, when you're going straight up, all you need to do is just basically accelerate to the point where you're going at 1000 meters per second, and then you can be pretty sure that in most cases you will leave the atmosphere. So as you can see, we've managed to do that, and all the science is taken, so I guess we can just accelerate to the point where we will be re-entering and see if we can land this thing without killing Jebediah. Yeah, so as you can see, yeah, the fins worked pretty well, so we were able to slow down. Jebediah unfortunately lost consciousness a couple of times, but he's a tough guy, he can handle that. And yeah, chutes are deployed, and we seem like we'll be landing okay. Well, with 6 meters per second, a little bit over 6 meters per second, I think we're safe, and even if we're not, we still have a little bit of fuel left, just in case we wanted to slow down. So, but that wasn't even needed. So we just had a, well, let's call that a relatively bumpy touchdown, but in fact it was pretty gentle for KSP standards, and yeah, that was our first suborbital trajectory. Really cool. So now our next goal will be building an orbital rocket, hopefully orbital rocket, and this is precisely how I called this rocket, hopefully an orbital rocket. We'll see how it goes. So let's just quickly grab a contract to orbit Gael, because we are totally going to do it, and I guess we can jump into vehicle assembly building and start building again. So yeah, as usual, we start with the command pod because we want Jeb to be the first Kerbal in orbit, because why not? And then we have those better fuel tanks now, so we'll need a couple of those. And since I wanted to recover both stages, I think that I'll use the swivel engine for the upper stage. I know it's not probably the most efficient, because we could totally use the Terrier one. But yeah, but this way we will be able to actually probably circularize fast enough so we can actually recover the first stage as well. Yes, obviously we need some science, so let's add a couple of those science juniors as well. I'm not sure if 2 is not too many, but we'll figure that out later. And we have something to protect us from the heat while we are re-entering. So yeah, so we have likely we have some heat shields, so let's choose one. The bigger one I think will be better. And probably maybe a nose cone to lower the drag slightly. Okay, I'm not sure if those fuel tanks are enough, so maybe let's add a little bit more. Right now we have a little bit more delta V, probably enough to circularize, and some parachutes to help us land a little bit more gently than explosively. And yes, let's rearrange those staging here, and it looks like we're okay with our upper stage, I think. So yeah, it looks okay. So let's add a little bit more science, and you know, some thermometers, some barometers, and an orbital telescope. It's an science experiment introduced by DMagic Orbital Science. Pretty cool. Actually, all those experiments are based off of real experiments that were sent up with real spacecraft. The only issue I had with them is that I would like them to be a little bit less, to give you a little bit more science and require you maybe to use them a little bit more than once, because this is the problem. Like they feel like you can just click it once for a biome, or even not even that sometimes. Some of them are for half the planet. So I also added a part for Kerbal engineering Redux, so we can actually track the data and everything initially. And we're off to build our first stage, which we want to have around 2000 meters per second delta V, while the second stage will need to have a little bit more than that, less than that, sorry. And this way we'll have a little bit over 4000, and we will get into orbit easily. So you can see here we are not yet there, not quite. Technically you could get into orbit with only 3500 meters per second delta V if your craft has a high enough thrust to weight ratio and is aerodynamically friendly. But I'm not sure if this rocket has both those features. I wouldn't say so. So maybe let's slap a little bit some boosters. Oh yeah, but now we have our rocket is too heavy. The launch pad is not supporting it. So what can we do? Suppose we can remove some of those fuel tanks, because our thrust to weight ratio, the initial thrust to weight ratio, is not high enough. Yeah, it still doesn't look very good, but we'll try anyway. So maybe what we could add are some fins to control our rocket a little bit better, and obviously some parachutes, because we obviously want to recover that first stage as well. And yeah, after adding the parachutes and rearranging the stages and adding fins and everything, unfortunately we couldn't add more than just 2 due to the part count limit. We were ready to launch, and here we are, big moment. As you can see, we're launching quite slowly. I would say a little bit too slowly for successful orbit, but yeah, let's see how it goes. And so far so good. It looks like we're going straight up, and the reason why we are going straight up is because with 2 fins only, it's really hard to control your rocket, and we have no gimbal, no nothing, just a tiny reaction wheel that Jeb has in his capsule, and that's usually not enough. But let's see. For the moment, it's not doing very badly, not at all. Although, yeah, the problem starts right here, and at this point we're losing control completely of the rocket, and it's spinning in circles right now. So yeah, abort the mission. What else can I say? This is very Kerbal launch. Pretty nice smoke trace here. wavy patterns, but likely we're not going to crash, I think, because we still have those parachutes, so we can just activate all of those and hopefully bring the rocket back to the ground safely. Although we are coming a little bit too fast for my liking. So let's burn a little bit more fuel to lighten the rocket slightly, and once this is done, I suppose what we'll do, we'll just decouple the stages and let the first and the second stage land separately, and this way we can use the engine on the first stage to soften the landing, because we still cannot transfer fuel from the first at all, actually, between fuel tanks. So we cannot transfer the fuel from the first stage to the second, no, from the second stage to the first stage, and therefore soften landing using the Reliant engine. But yeah, actually this worked okay, and the first stage and the second stage landed, nothing exploded, nothing was broken, so we're good to go. Hopefully Orbital rocket turned out to be pretty hopeless, and we had to improve the launch pad slightly to support larger vessels, and we are ready to go. So after a slight redesign of our rocket, we are ready to launch again with 3 boosters this time that will not be recovered, and that was a conscious decision that I made. I hope that I didn't ruin my my image completely as an SSTO maniac, I suppose. But the first and the second stage are intended to be recovered completely, and that obviously didn't work in a very Kerbal way, but you'll see. Well, I also promised you that I won't be running you through everything that you do normally in a career mode, and I ended up doing this exactly, and this video is getting pretty long, so let's speed up slightly. And you see that we've been kind of going really well with the first stage, and got into suborbital trajectory really easily. And once we detached, we circularized with our second stage. And once this was done, I went quickly to the tracking station, because for some reason I couldn't switch to the booster. So here we are with our booster ready to re-enter. And the staging was set in a way that once the booster is detached, the parachute should be set to deploy when safe. And luckily they did, and they did actually deploy on the correct altitude, and everything worked perfectly, at least with the booster, because the rest was a complete disaster. So, but yeah, we'll get to that as well. But initially there was a big success. Everyone at KC was very happy about the first suborbital booster recovery, almost SpaceX style. And then we went again to the tracking station, and in the meantime improved as well the astronaut complex, so Jeb could EVA in orbit, because, you know, he probably got his training, you know, wirelessly. Which is pretty awesome as well. And yeah, we were in orbit. That's on our first orbit, so we cashed in a little bit of money. And then I wanted to send Jeb on EVA, and for some reason, I suppose the heat shield was about to close the hatch. He had a very spectacular exit of his capsule, was kind of ejected out. But yeah, I managed to grab it back and got a little bit of EVA reports from flying over different biomes of Gael for that sweet science that we need so much. And once this was, well, not done, because I didn't get probably all of them, but just a couple of them, just, you know. So we had some. It was time to re-enter. We had a lot of fuel, so that was okay. So I was sure that we could deorbit the rocket easily. And yeah, well, it looked okay. There was no hint of an incoming disaster, really. And well, the heat shield was in place. We had enough fuel to deorbit. We had parachutes, surely for enough parachutes to you know, slow down once close to the ground, and even the nose cone to, you know, kind of nose cone could be sacrificed. And then it was okay, and then almost everything exploded except for the capsule. So, and the scary part was that the main chutes were attached to the side, not on the capsule, so Jeb had to land on drogue chutes only. And that was pretty fast. It was like 15 meters per second minimum that I could get, so I jettisoned the heat shield to actually save us some weight. But luckily Jeb survived. His capsule was very sturdy, and he is a sturdy Kerbal as well. So that was the end of this adventure, and yeah, our first orbit over Gael was done. So in the next video we're going to Iota, hopefully we're going to Iota, and we won't stay there as well. We'll see. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please give this video a like. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel for more good stuff, supposedly. And I will see you next time. Cheers.